Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Emi-Beth Quantson. Oh, come on, we can do it better for her.
Thank you. When I walked in today, I got a little fan club at the back with Lady Dell and Iona. Hey, girls. They really quizzed me about coffee. They were asking me, I brought a coffee plant for everybody who hasn't seen coffee before. There's one outside. They asked me, what is this coffee plant? How does the bean look like? How does it become coffee? They tasted it. They said, oh, this is so good. I'm like, you're not supposed to be drinking coffee at this time. But I really appreciate all the fans from the little ones. So I hope we can all be like them, in their enthusiasm and how they cheer us on as we're going. So my name is Emi-Beth Quantson. As mentioned, I'm a coffee entrepreneur, and the name of my company is Kawa Moka. So today I'm going to talk to you, one, about coffee, and I'm also going to talk a bit about my entrepreneurial journey, just so that for those of you considering being entrepreneurs, you can also get some knowledge from there. So the two questions I'm most persistently asked as an entrepreneur are, do Ghanaians drink coffee? And do we have coffee in Ghana? So the answers to both those questions are yes. I saw the hands go up when you were asked who drinks coffee. So yes, we do drink coffee in Ghana. And yes, there's coffee in Ghana. So historically, if you asked about coffee, they'd tell you that in the 1930s, we used to grow a lot of coffee. But then what happened was, over time, there was no market. So a lot of the coffee farmers stopped growing coffee because they would grow it and then they couldn't sell it. And a lot of them converted to cocoa. So most of the cocoa growing areas are coffee growing areas as well. So in terms of consumption, for those of you who ask, do Ghanaians drink coffee? The numbers are about 128 tons. A ton is 1,000 kilos. So that's 128,000 kilos. A bag of my coffee is 250 grams. So the mathematicians here, you can do the math. It's quite a bit of coffee. About 120 tons is imported. And then locally, we are looking at about 8 tons. So we still have a lot in terms of processed coffee. So most of the coffee that's grown in Ghana is exported. In terms of how much is grown, we're looking at 100,000 tons in the next 10 years. So there's a government project initiated in 2011 that is looking to encourage farmers to grow more coffee. So at the moment, they're giving out free coffee seedlings to the farmers. There's a lot of technical support. We're trying to move towards organic coffee. At the moment, coffee is quite a resistant crop, so they generally do not spray with fertilizers and all that like cocoa. And it's usually shade grown. So you usually find plantain trees where they plant coffee. Okay? Yeah, so just to give you an idea of where coffee is grown, we have some in the Brong-Ahafo region, in the eastern region. There's some in the Volta and Ashanti. So pretty much like the lower parts of, pretty much everywhere in the lower part of Ghana can grow coffee. And the coffee value chain starts with growing the coffee. So first you plant the coffee. It's a little cherry. You'll see it on the next slide. But it comes out as a little cherry fruit. And that is dried. Well, it's harvested. So first it's picked. Then it's dried. It comes out as a hard, nut-like bean, I guess you could call it. And then it's hulled. So they crack the husk. And then out of that comes a green bean. And that green bean is roasted, and then you get your coffee. So you'll see that's what it looks like when it's cherry picked. When it's dried, the hand shows you what it looks like when it's dried. When you crack it, when you hull it, you get the green beans, and then that is roasted. And this is a Kawa Moka operation, so it's not like pictures we picked from the internet. This is actually when we go to the farm. These are pictures we take, and that's our roasting machine. So we roast fresh for your consumption. So yeah, in Ghana, there's no better coffee than Kawa Moka's. We're very focused on quality, so we're really engaged in the communities we go into. We work with the farmers to control the quality of coffee that they give to us. We're concerned with impact as well. So quality and impact are our core values as a company. Yeah, so for those of you who are always arguing about, is coffee good? I think people have different tastes. I respect that. I'm not asking you to start drinking coffee because I do coffee. But for those who do drink coffee, these are some, and those who know people who, this is from Instagram. So the social media people. So coffee is a source of antioxidants, and I'm sure the doctors in the house can explain that. It improves energy, it contains essential nutrients, makes you happier, it lowers the risk of diseases, it helps burn fat, it improves performance, helps you live longer, and it protects your liver, and the best one for me, it makes you smarter. So you can argue that differently, but this is what they say, coffee is good. Okay, so you may ask why coffee, and for me, I stumbled into coffee more from the love of coffee spaces than from the love of coffee itself. My interest was in coffee shops as a place to have intimate conversations, meet with your friends, start a business is a place to meet. So that's how I got into coffee. I think it was when I was writing my ACCAs. Most of the libraries would close at 3, some at 5, and then by the time you move back home, you restart, it's about 8 o'clock, so there's a whole break. So I was like, why don't we have coffee shops where we can just relax and, study and have conversations and the like, and that's what got me interested in coffee. Around that time, I also had the opportunity to go to Kenya to work. So I worked in Kenya for a couple of years, and they have a strong coffee culture. So that also allowed me to explore different ways in which coffee could be introduced to customers. As a background, I went to Achimota. Well, I started school at Alcid, and then I went to Achimota, and then I went to Ashesi, and from there went to PwC. Now, I mention this because the title of my presentation is The Power of Accidents. In the quest for self-realization, we always ask ourselves, how do we end up here? Or what could we have done that could have taken us down a different path? And for me, I think the various experiences that we have are driving us to different places. And you can't really tell, like my going to Alcid was not a choice of mine. My going to Achimota wasn't really, partially I could say that I chose the school, but it was part of a process. Going to Ashesi was also part of a process. I think all of that added and shaped me into who I was. Even going into Kenya, there were people who wanted to go to London and other places. I was happy to stay in Africa. So the reason I mention this is because sometimes we try to push ourselves in certain directions, but there's what I call a supernatural hand that is sort of pushing us in different places to get us where we're supposed to be. And that is really what I believe my coffee journey has been. There have been many times when I've been, am I in the right place? And then something would happen. Even with our new products, there was a lady I went to school with. This is at China Europe International School. And she talked to me about Leklebi, which is where we get our coffee from. And just like that, we found a community where we're going to get our supply from. So it's different things that just come together at a certain time. And you don't know why or how, but it comes together. So there's always that power of God in everything that you're doing. So always look for it, I believe, in everything that you're doing. And that's sort of why I gave this background. Just as another background, in terms of transitioning, I went hardcore. So I left work. Trust me, it's madness. I left work and said I was going to be an entrepreneur. It's quite a jump. So again, there were things that, shaped out from there. Please don't quit your job and say, Emi-Beth said that's the way to go. Everyone is different. But there was also, opportunities that came up from that and just things that happened that keep you on the journey. It's not easy, I must say, especially transitioning from a corporate into entrepreneurship. There's always that, first, your self-confidence gets hit. Because when you're in a corporate environment, you have a boss or you're doing a good job. There's a clear line of authority. You know that in 5 years, 7 years, if you keep doing the right thing, you're probably going to make partner. You're going to be the CEO. There's a path. Now you start your business. You don't even know if it's going to be operating in the next year. Nobody's going to tap your back and say you're doing a good job. Or this is your performance feedback. You just need to improve one area or two areas. So you get that shock when you first start. So there's a lot you need to do internally. So there's a lot I say you look within, because at that point, it's not external validation. It's internal. You need to push yourself. You need to seek knowledge. You need to find your quiet time and ask yourself, am I really doing what I need to do? And you'll hear the answers. You'll see it. As you get up and you do things, you'll see the manifestation. But you have to be patient, because it's not easy. It's not easy. So that's just a bit of background for me and going on my coffee journey. The deciding moments for me when I decided to take this leap was when I went skydiving. So that's, yeah. So I remember this moment when I went to Florida, and I was with my uncle and a couple of my cousins, and it was random. I said, oh, I've never been skydiving. I've always wanted to go skydiving. And my uncle was like, okay, I used to have a roommate who used to skydive. Let me call her and find out, where they skydive. And just like that, my other cousins, so there were 4 of us, my other cousins were like, oh, yeah, we'd like to try that. And there was one girl in the room. She said to us, are you mentally prepared? and we all paused and looked at her like, this is supposed to be exciting. Don't remind us that there's risk, So we went skydiving. We just got up. I think the next day we found information. The next day we went to the center. First of all, they give you forms. So that every form, you recognize that this is a dangerous activity. You're not liable. About, I kid you not, maybe 8 pages. And you have to initial every paragraph. You recognize all of this. Okay, fine, we signed, wrote, and then we went on this plane. And then it was time to jump. Obviously, we don't do that, so you can't do it like alone. You have to do it with an instructor, who's the guy behind us. And then there's a point here. This was the highest tandem jump, I think, in the world, I think. Don't quote me, but I think it is. It's 18,000 feet. It's quite high. So you jump out with this guy. And the scariest moment is at the door. Because they open the door, you feel the wind, and the wind is so strong, you feel it on your face, and then you jump. And there's that moment where you're supposed to jump where you're like terrified. And luckily, because there's this instructor behind, he sort of pushes you, so you don't have time to think. And then you're in the sky, and the wind is on your face, and it feels so good. After the fear, yes, it does. Don't go and do it again and say, Emi-Beth did it. No, please. And then when we got down, so it's beautiful. It was like, if I remember right, I think it was 8 minutes in total, and the first 4 minutes were free fall. So that's when you're just like floating, nothing. Gravity is pulling you down. And then they release the parachute, and then you go down. So we get down, and we're all exhilarated. And there's a gentleman wearing a shirt, and the shirt said, the sky is not the limit. So I asked him, what's the meaning of what's on your shirt? And he said the ground is. Because when you're coming down, if you don't land properly, you can pretty much break your legs. You have to manage your velocity. He said the ground is. I was like, that's very interesting. You have to lift off, You have to land. We are also scared of moving. We are stuck, But the sky is really not the limit. The ground is. Get off the ground. Go. Go. So, yeah, that's really what I had to say to you today. That's my story. Try something new. I think I had a few points, yes. So it's everything you need is really within. I think we're already born with a map. So as you go, you are shaped by the schools you go to, the people you meet, but everything is within. So always make sure to find that little time to look within. Amidst the noise, amidst everything, look within and listen to that voice. You'll have advisors, you'll have experiences, but listen to that voice within. You have everything you need already. The people around you are important. Remember that lady who was asking us, are you mentally prepared? If we had listened to that fear, we may not have ever experienced that. And for me, that was the defining moment. After that skydive, trust me, I felt invisible. I could do anything. I was not intimidated at all. If you say 1, I say 5. I've survived. So the people around you are important. They can really help you in your journey. They can really assist. And keep learning. Like the lady who introduced me to Lake Leby, I met at China Europe International School, Business School. It was a continuous learning program. Just keep learning. You don't always have to pay for it. their associations, their programs, but always make sure that, and there's leading ladies, of course, always make sure that you're learning, you're involved, you're engaged. Just keeping that positivity and keeping that movement is very important to your psyche as an entrepreneur. And finally, do not exclude yourself. I think as women, we do that more. We're shy, we're not sure, we don't want to be ambitious. You don't want to say it and fall. Don't exclude yourself. I get that a lot from Americans. When you talk to them, they've already told you their life story and where they're headed with their company. And, the more you talk about it, the more somebody can see where they can help you. I know there are people who steal ideas and all of that. But, ideas are different. Implementation is different. There are a lot of people who have similar ideas, but the implementation is different. So don't keep your story to yourself thinking, oh, I have the most wonderful product. Yes, it's maybe, but there are people that can help you on that journey. So don't exclude yourself. Talk about your product. Be bold. I remember one of my coaches did an experiment with me. We went for a coaching session, and it was at a coffee shop. So she said to me, what are you doing now? I said, oh, we've started marketing our coffee. She was like, yeah, go and sell your coffee to these guys. I said, oh, I'm not ready. She said, go. And I just walked up and introduced the coffee to them, and I was amazed. First of all, the coffee attendant was from Lake Leby. That was point one. So he was very excited about the fact that, one, we realized there was coffee there, and we're highlighting it. So that was even wow. Then the whole conversation, they were happy to sell our coffee. I went to they sent me to their boss who does distribution and was willing to help us with distribution. So if I hadn't made that first step, if I hadn't had that discussion, I would have been sitting there. I would never have known the opportunities waiting for me. And that was a big lesson for me. Anytime I go anywhere, I talk about it. I'm not shy anymore. I don't say, oh, no. I'll wait till the perfect moment to share my story. I go. Whether I'm looking the best, no, I don't care. I'll go and I'll talk about it because that could be your moment. So don't exclude yourself. Yes. So this is one of my favorite verses in the Bible, that God has not given you the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of self-discipline. So go out into the world and show your awesomeness.
Leading ladies are awesome. So congratulations, Emi-Beth. Do we have any questions for her?
Okay, so my question is about coffee. I've heard a lot about coffee luwak. I find it very icky, but since you're the coffee person, maybe you can disabuse my mind.
So a lot of people ask me that and say to me, especially with the business, I remember one consultant once said to me, we're going to try and make everybody a coffee drinker. And I said, no, that's not my intent. My intent is to give people who already drink coffee or people who are interested in coffee a high-quality alternative to asking your friend to bring you coffee from Kenya when they're coming. Then they bring you one in their suitcase, and you have to wait till the next trip to get another one. My thing is, there's high-quality coffee in Ghana, and we can drink it. So I know that you find coffee icky. That's perfectly okay.
No, not just coffee. Okay. Coffee luwak. There's this type of coffee where basically there's an animal that ingests some beans.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I'm okay with coffee.
Not all coffee is made like that. But again, it speaks to the quality and the unique features. And it's like when you're a connoisseur of something, right? You may try certain things that people who just sample or people who are not really interested in it may not do. There are a lot of experiments, and some of it comes from even like the soil, okay? So like coffee takes some of its flavors from the soil it's grown and that. So that's where that coffee idea comes from. And for people who drink it, they swear by it that it's great. You may drink it and not like it. People don't, what are those, the eggs, fish eggs, what are they called? Caviar. People don't like it, but it's so expensive and it's, so it's a taste thing. It's a taste thing. And sometimes you try something, you may not like it, you try it. And it also depends on how you're introduced to it. So I respect your view of ickiness. It's okay.
We'll take 2 more questions for Emi-Beth. Nanama.
What's the best way to prepare coffee, and how do I get a great cup of coffee in the morning?
She needs a cup of coffee.
I know.
Kawa Moka coffee.
Go outside. It depends. Like, every coffee is generally different. For Kawa Moka coffee, the way I like to brew it is with a moka pot. I don't know if you know a moka pot, the stovetop one. Yeah, so you put the water underneath, you put the coffee inside, and then the force of the heat pushes out the coffee, and then you drink it. For Kawa Moka coffee, I love that. You can also do a drip machine, if you have a drip machine. And I hope I'm not speaking jazz at this point.
Yes, you are.
But there's also the drip machine. So it's all about proportions and the water. You'll find that the real coffee addicts are very particular about the kind of water they use.
Right.
They won't use tap water. It has to be filtered, certain temperature of boiling. So there's a whole science to bringing out the best flavors. But at the end of the day, you just want a great cup of coffee, right? So that's it. The French press is also a good way to make coffee. So don't worry, we'll walk you through all those things.
Okay. Thank you so much. Kawa Moka lady. Leading lady.